Is Bitcoin about to crater harder than the asteroid, or maybe even the comet that killed the dinosaurs? Is Facebook a meta disaster? And have you ever thought about the language used to describe numbers? Well, let's find out. Hey everybody, welcome to Piazza Research. My name is JJ, and we begin today with updates regarding Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin's price is oscillating or teetering in between $30,000 and $60,000 over the past year, and this level of volatility is not unusual for Bitcoin. And for some people, it's actually too much volatility, that $30,000 price range. And then for other people, it seems like it's actually trading sideways. And it really depends on your investment time horizon, your understanding of the underlying technology that is blockchain, its advantages and disadvantages, as well as your exposure to the asset. So how much you own as a percentage of all of your wealth. 60% of all Bitcoin holders have held their stash for at least a year as it sits right now in 2022. And it seems that we are in an accumulation phase for people that hold long term. And in the past, this would happen for some length of time, and then there would be a short-term trading frenzy that would cause the price of Bitcoin to go up significantly, to grow exponentially. And we should keep our eyes open and pay attention and see if that trend continues. In this side of bad news as it relates to Bitcoin, and this is not a political take, it's really just focusing on Bitcoin, a perspective of Bitcoin. Russia has not decided to buy Bitcoin, even in the face of a collapsing currency, economic turmoil, companies like McDonald's, Starbucks, Morgan Stanley, all pulling out, sanctions on their economy. All of this has not led Russia to even buy Bitcoin. These are the kind of circumstances or scenario you would think would cause a major nation, Russia is a huge nation, to buy Bitcoin. But instead they have in fact bought gold. Now, gold is not superior to Bitcoin by any means. In fact, it's an analog technology that predated the internet, which is why it was widely used across the globe. And I think Russia has chosen to continue to buy this because they already own a large percentage of gold. They have the infrastructure to secure it. They're familiar with it. They're not exactly trying to learn and innovate in the realm of banking and money. So that's my take from a government perspective. But if we think about gold from an individual perspective, if you're a fleeing Ukrainian being bombarded by missiles, how the hell are you going to move with all of your gold? You're not going to carry heavy plates of gold in your backpack, traversing over difficult terrain for miles and miles to escape the country. And even if you're a Russian citizen, you're trying to flee a dictatorship, you are not going to be able to bring your gold onto a plane. I just don't understand the appeal of gold from a transportability perspective. It's a logistical nightmare just to move it. Whereas with Bitcoin, you just need to memorize a 12 or 24 word password and your wealth goes where you go. You just need to access internet, and that's becoming more and more abundant. We've also seen the US is able to weaponize the dollar. They have in fact essentially canceled the reserves of Russia, their US treasuries that they held. And this is going to potentially be destabilizing or catastrophic for the dollar as a world reserve asset if people think they can't trust it. Canada, we've seen that Canada is able to freeze citizen bank accounts and prevent companies like GoFundMe from bringing money that was donated to them, preventing them from processing these transactions for political purposes. And now you might be comfortable with your political leadership now, but there's no guarantee that in the future a different administration will want to crack down on you for whatever purpose, for whatever reason. There's just no telling what might happen. We are also hearing more and more about a CBDC, a central bank digital currency, and if implemented and rolled out, it will make it much easier for governments to track you, to track your payment history, to control your movement of money. And this is something to take into consideration when we think about a central bank digital currency. All of this is leading to Bitcoin's value proposition. I think Bitcoin will continue, its value will continue to rise as adoption persists, education increases, use cases rise, layer 2 solutions for scaling improve, and as the global economy ramps up commerce using the blockchain. All of this will result in network effects that will be unprecedented in human history. I mean, it's already a top 10 global asset, and it's trying to instantiate itself as a permanent top 10 asset. Better yet, its permanent scarcity, easy transportability, and potential upside, I think, makes it the best asset to own right now. So that's Bitcoin. I think we can transition over to social media now. Think about the metaverse and Meta. I have some thoughts, and I was watching some show talk about Meta, and it's 30% sell-off a few weeks ago, and they were saying it was because of the rebranding, all of the controversy surrounding the company, decreased growth, and a bad pitch on the metaverse. I mean, it got me thinking, is this a buying opportunity? The most valuable social media company on the planet, embedded in so many people's lives all around the world, with a vision, primarily Mark Zuckerberg's vision, to pioneer the next generation of social media. Is this a can't-miss opportunity? Now remember, this is not financial advice, this is not legal or tax advice, and please consult a professional regarding your circumstances. And we are not responsible for any decisions you make. And if you recall, some of my other work, nobody, from my perspective, is really picking winners and losers in the equity market right now. All the action, for the most part, is a result of macro factors. So I lined up the other major social media companies, Twitter, Pinterest, Snapchat, and they all had a very similar sell-off. So the problem is not unique to Meta, and the constant bombardment of criticism it receives is probably just the media machine at work because it's popular to pile on to Facebook. A lot of it's self-induced, I will acknowledge. But the charts don't lie. They show a sell-off across social media, the entire industry. They show a sell-off across technology and risk assets, the growth sector as a whole. It's showing a sell-off across S&P 500, and even global equities are selling off. And all of this was taking place before the crisis that erupted in Eastern Europe. So who's responsible? What is the mechanism involved causing the sell-off? Who is the assailant? And the assailant is Fed monetary policy. Now, monetary policy moves markets right now, and I think it has been pretty much for the past 10 years, maybe even longer. And I go into great detail and length and depth into this in my video, how the government moves markets. So do check that out if you want more details regarding that. I go into quantitative easing, tapering, interest rates, inflation, all of that fun stuff to think about. But if we could control, which we can't, for macro factors, and we just wanted to pick a winning company, regardless of short-term stock price swings or fluctuations, we have to think critically about what the company does and what it could do in the future in terms of product and services, in terms of revenue, in terms of profit, in terms of success from a business perspective. So the first thing to consider is whether they offer something unique. New technology, for example. new technology that is irresistible and proprietary. So they have a patent on it. They own it. It's exclusively theirs. And Meta's new vision is to offer access to cyberspace using 3D virtual reality and augmented reality of the current physical world. And they are putting a 10-year timeline on the endeavor with expectations to tech for the headset, the haptic feedback suit, and photorealism, so the graphics, will progressive enough that it is comfortable, easy to use, and irresistibly more exciting than the real world is for many people in the population. People will go to Meta's portion of the metaverse to build and grow their own economy using the proceeds from their labor to buy more digital products and services, and the labor they produce online, I might add. But they'll also use the proceeds from that to buy things in the real world like food and water, equipment, and shelter. Now, this will not be exclusive to entertainers like it is now, somewhat. But Meta believes there is a real scenario where many companies will conduct business by commuting to a virtual work environment, a virtual work world, an immersive and augmented experience and expansion of the current web camera work environment. So this would be, we're all on Zoom, we're all on Microsoft Teams doing video cameras through the webcam. Now imagine you put on a suit, a headset, and you can go to work. You can commute to work digitally. That is the vision that Mark Zuckerberg wants to take advantage of, that Meta, Facebook, executives, all the company are spearheading at the moment. And I have a take on this. Piazza Research has dug into this and has some thoughts. But let's take a short commercial break, and then we will give you our take right after this. Do you suffer from suffering? Falling down the stairs each and every morning? Do you suffer from thinking backwards? Do you suffer from time loss? Unable to look at the data? Then ask your doctor about Piazza Research. Piazza Research is a therapy used to prevent suffering, falling, thinking backwards, and lost or wasted time. Possible side effects may include improved cognitive function, reduced stupidity, and you may experience the ability to think for yourself. It's available at your local YouTube channel 24/7, 365. So subscribe. Hey everybody, welcome back. And I'd like to pick up right where we left off, which is talking about the metaverse, Meta, and their vision for the future of 3D virtual reality and augmented reality. Now, the term metaverse is an all-encompassing term that Facebook itself cannot control. So the metaverse encapsulates the entire ecosystem of different 3D digital worlds and any engagement on the internet. And these digital worlds will be interconnected seamlessly, where I can move from Facebook's version or block or community easily to another community without having to log out. It will be a seamless transition of information there. And Meta will only have their block of this entire metaverse where people can go, but it will not be the only. Now, it is possible their block could be the biggest and most popular for a time, but it is not a foregone certainty they will be the most successful digital community in the metaverse. And we have identified 4 categories that need to be dramatically improved by Meta for this vision to become a reality, albeit a virtual one. And the first category is the headset. Right now, it is a giant brick on your face, and it's really uncomfortable to wear, and you'll have a very strong neck if you use it a lot. But it's not where it needs to be in terms of comfortability. The next area they need to improve is the haptic feedback, which is focused right now on the hands and fingers. And they're really trying to perfect the mechanisms to give that real physical sensation, the skin. And it's not quite there yet, and this is secondhand communication. I have never worn those. But they also, in our opinion, need to have an entire feedback suit. I want the full immersion. We need the full immersion for them to be successful. The third category will be photorealism, or the graphics. And they're going for people like realistic photos where you're able to move and walk around. But right now, it honestly looks like Minecraft, which no, I'm not a hater on Minecraft, but it can't be that bad. It needs to be much more realistic, and that have a long way to go on that. And then the fourth area is they need to inundate their world with digital energy, and that will come in the form of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, a fair and neutral money that can be moved across the entire metaverse. And this is something that Meta could easily incorporate. They just need the willingness and the choice to make the choice to do it. To conclude, they cannot possibly pioneer on all four of these dimensions. So there will be companies that specialize in these areas that will do it better than them, that will have more success, and they can take advantage of the success as they are a massive company by buying those companies up or have them become suppliers. And they can be successful by being the first company in the metaverse, the first digital world. And it has to be a good digital world, otherwise people will leave. But being the first will be huge for them and their vision. Meta also has a massive user base array to stay with them and transition to the new world. And they will be positioned to set up partnerships with major corporations to pursue, more specifically, their 3D work vision. Now, if they can build a world where everybody comes to work, that will be tremendously successful. The problem will be bringing all of these areas under the umbrella of one company to stand out as the best player in town. Now, it is certainly possible, but we don't know, is the easy answer. We will continue to do research on this. We will continue to look for insights. We will keep you updated on developments in the metaverse, Meta, social media. But you need to like and subscribe and turn on the alert button in order to be updated. So make sure you guys do that. Time for the fun fact segment of our show, which will be about number definitions. And this was just something that caught my eye when I was thinking about mathematics and working on my mathematics, specifically algebra and logarithms. And I think it's useful to understand the language used to define the different categories and classifications of numbers. And we can start out with the first one, which are counting numbers. And counting numbers include 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. And if you noticed, I left absent the number 0, which back in the day they didn't have it. They didn't think they needed a symbol to represent a lack of quantity, a nothingness. They didn't think to do that until eventually they came up with 0. And this falls under the definition or term whole numbers. So whole numbers are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. And the next definition or category is integers. Integers are whole numbers as well as negative numbers on the number line. So a great way to visualize it is a number line moving from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positive, and then 0, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5 in the other direction. And the next definition is rational numbers. Now, rational numbers are really interesting because they include fractions along the number line. So half, -half, 1.3. Very basic fractions, but along the entire number line. Even more interesting than all of this are real numbers, which include rational numbers and irrational numbers. Now, irrational numbers are numbers that can't be easily divided by integers, a ratio of integers. It is a very long, complex number that surfaces in many different math problems. And a few examples are Euler's number, often denoted by the letter E. We have the square root of 2, and pi. Pi is another example. These are irrational numbers. They are important numbers that you use to solve equations, but they can't be easily, they can't have a ratio of integers, just like 1 over 2. It's not built that way. And the last area that I came across, I think there's more, including complex numbers, but the last area I'm going to talk about is imaginary numbers, which help us define the square root or square of negative numbers, and it's usually operated and denoted by the letter I, and it's used in complex mathematics mostly, and quantum mechanics, and in fundamental physics, and these type of areas. And we just think it's really important to understand these different areas, because you'll come across the language used to describe these numbers, and it'll help you wrap your mind around understanding the mathematics. And it may seem silly, but we really believe this will be helpful if you just really know this like the back of your hand. You know this, the backbone of mathematics and our ability to communicate using language. So that's all we have for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and we'll see you next week.